Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, here in the public forum of our group exhibit, Hydrogen and Fuel Cells. We have a very special guest now. I'm very happy that I can talk with him about solar hydrogen economy, the task for the future for the European Union. And it is the member of the European Parliament, the member of the group of Progressive Alliance of Socialists and Democrats in the European Parliament, and the former chair and now member of the Committee Environment, Public Health and Food Safety, Joe Leinen. Very happy to have you here. Hi. Mr. Leinen, it's a pleasure to have you here. Please have a seat. And everybody is invited to participate in this talk. If you have a question to Joe Leinen, just raise your hand and we'll come right to you with a microphone and you can discuss with him directly. Mr. Leinen, in Germany, the energy transformation is widely discussed already since, well, at least last year, maybe a little bit longer. What is happening? Are you happy about what's changing at the moment with the energy transformation?
I must say that Europe is looking on Germany. If you're working in Brussels like me, you are asked by people from Portugal, from Sweden, from Netherlands, how is the Energiewende? So there's a huge attraction to this idea really to supply the energy needs by renewables and all the related technologies. And I tell you, last June was the big UN conference on sustainable development in Rio. And Energiewende in Germany was topic number one. There is widespread interest globally.
And so it's globally very important that we succeed, isn't it?
Absolutely. It would be a shame if we fail. And of course, we know the problems that the investments in wind and in solar is enormous. Technological progress is really huge, as you could see here on the fair. But we lack a few pieces in the whole picture.
Indeed. One could think, well, maybe it's difficult because there are too few renewables coming into the grid, or it takes too long until new renewables like wind and solar coming to the grid. But it's the other thing is the case. The opposite is the case. We have too many of the renewables, haven't we?
We never can have too many renewables. Of course, for the system, it's problematic, and as you have reading, we are exporting more electricity than ever. So we closed down 8 nuclear power stations and we export record numbers of electricity because there is so much of wind and sun, and let's say that's good, but it is in the system a problem to really manage it.
That's right, because they are volatile, as we say. So the sun doesn't always shine at night. You know, it's dark, and the wind doesn't always blow. We have to cope with that problem that we sometimes have too much electricity, sometimes too little.
Yeah, and storage of renewable energy is the big issue. I think we're in the middle of it on this forum of hydrogen. A perfect storage factor and vector. And I think we have to really act and have to really do it and not talk about it. And I'm a bit worried if I see our debate in Germany a bit up to the elections, let's say, in September, that we are now trying to stop the investments in renewables. That's a wrong signal. I don't think that's right. We have to be active and energize the investments in storage systems and, of course, in renewing the grid. That's the key.
Indeed, we should use the renewables to produce hydrogen with it, because that's quite easy. We only need electrolyzers and water, and then we have hydrogen and oxygen, and we can use the hydrogen for transportation. But the problem is we don't have any fuel cell cars left for this hydrogen.
Yeah, I'm a long-standing member of Eurosolar, an NGO quite known in Germany, and when I proposed to my friend Hermann Scheer, let's go for fuel cells and for hydrogen. He said, no, we lose too much energy. This is not the way to go. You have the batteries, the electric cars, and let's use electricity and not hydrogen. But look how that has changed in 2, 3, 4 years. Yeah, we have 30,000 megawatts of wind power. I think about 25,000 megawatts of solar power installed. And of course, the wind is not always blowing, the sun is not always shining. You need that storage, and hydrogen would just be perfect. And since Jeremy Rifkin is an old friend of mine, and we know that the hydrogen economy is a famous book of him, we have pushed a lot out of the European Parliament that the Commission, our government in Europe, is waking up and really providing tools and instruments to come forward with fuel cells and hydrogen.
One really can say that Hermann shares vision. He's dead now, unfortunately. But his vision became reality in a way because we have so much solar power. But now the next vision has to come into reality that we have a hydrogen economy. But to build that up, we not only need fuel cell cars, we also need an infrastructure for hydrogen. Where is it coming? You know, this group exhibit exists since 1995 already, and even then we had the BMWs burning hydrogen, and until now we only have 15 filling stations in Germany. This is too little.
Yeah, you might know that in the strategic energy plan, the set plan of the EU, there was a big fight whether hydrogen is in or hydrogen is out. So, and we succeeded to bring it in. So there is a joint undertaking between the industry and the European Union, in this case the member states. We go to a new period. So in June this year is the decision whether this continues beyond the year 2013. And I cannot imagine that we stop. I mean, that has to continue. And then, of course, you mentioned it, the infrastructure. And just a few weeks ago, the European Commission issued a communication. This is one way of dealing with problems, and the other is proposing a directive binding rules for all 27 member states and the 500 million people in it for building up that infrastructure. And that directive, of course, is now on paper. It has to be decided, and it has then, of course, to be implemented.
Yeah, yesterday we had here on the group exhibit the European Union Day, where the joint undertaking was presenting different efforts and different projects on the way to a hydrogen economy. But the problem is, it's not decided yet whether it will be in the next joint undertaking. When will this decision fall?
Yeah, there are competing interests. I'm a bit horrified looking on fracking, where fossil fuels come back into the market, and one must say to at least superficially looked on it quite good prices. But that is not the future. In my opinion, it's definitely not the future. And in June, before summer, the new set plan will be decided. And I think from this fair as well, those working in the field, they should be on board that we are not losing, but that this joint undertaking continues for another 5 years.
The hydrogen fuel cell joint undertaking is a public-private partnership where also European Commission and the member states and the industry and research institutes are dealing together. But well, in this play together, the industry plays a very important role. Do you really have the impression that the industry is interested in building up such an infrastructure and building also fuel cell cars?
Good, there is a bit a poker game. Who pays for the infrastructure? Is it the private sector or is it the public sector? And the old players, let's say, have not such a big interest in this new structure and these new energies, so they are not a real partner, unfortunately. I see that now the pressure is big enough for some industries to go forward and to invest. Actually, in my committee, in the Environment Committee, we are debating CO2 emissions for cars beyond 2020, and it's clear that the next standard under 95 gram
CO2 per kilometer,
let's say 70, 65 gram, you need new technologies. You will not do it with the diesel and with the benzene engine. So the
Maybe
new
with very efficient hybrids.
Yeah, the new cars have to come till 2025 at the latest in a series, not as a niche sector, but as the standard motor vehicle, and we are pushing for it. And therefore, I could see with big interest as well on this fair how some industries are now prepared to invest and make the first investment. When Rockefeller found the oil, he was the one who, as we know, paid all the petrol lamps in Boston and other cities. And I said, look, when they once have it, they will buy my oil. And in this way, I think industry has to come forward and do their bit.
Hopefully you're right. But we can see the big advantage of the EU, that you can make regulations, that you can really force industry to keep to certain levels, like, as you said, 70 or 65 grams CO2 per kilometer. That would help a lot for hydrogen infrastructure and for fuel cell cars, indeed.
Of course, the transport sector has to move. If you look how emissions in the transport sector are still growing despite good modern technologies. So I think there we are at the edge of a transformation where diesel and petrol will go out of the market, and I think the fuel cell and plug-in and battery for some appliances will come in.
Yeah. I would like to give you the opportunity. If you have any question, just raise your hand, and I'll come with the microphone directly to you. So I would like to touch another item, which is the current discussion about power to gas. So producing hydrogen and then putting it into the energy grid, into the natural gas grid, is a big opportunity, but therefore we have regulations like only 2 volume % maybe inserted there. Can policy do something to open the net again for hydrogen?
Now, you're completely right. Transporting energy is a big issue. And we will not build so many grids, electricity grids, as you would need without hydrogen. And hydrogen has this enormous, let's say, opportunity that you can transport it in gas pipelines. And I think legislation has to adjust to it, and we have to make it easier and not more difficult.
Would be great if that could happen. Same with hydrogen cars, you know. There's also a lack in regulations. They don't know whether they can drive into parking houses or not, like natural gas cars can't enter these houses. There's a lot of regulation to be done, and also a lot of standards to be done that European Union could do.
But that's the big advantage, I would say, of that European Union, 27 states, and others follow us, whether it's Norway, whether it's Switzerland, all of them around us, they would take European standards for themselves. And if you look on the global map, I mean, this little Europe would be just not reasonable to have different standards in France and in Germany or in Britain. So we need the European Union for standardization, and that is on the way to be done.
There's the first question. I'll come to you. If you would introduce yourself, that would be nice.
Good afternoon, Jose Mainez. I'm consultant on energy. How should hydrogen energy deployment contribute to European cohesion?
I would say the hydrogen economy, as the topic of this session is, in my opinion and in opinion of many of my colleagues, is the future for the energy supply in Europe. Of course, we have to go for the targets for renewables. As you know, in the first energy climate package, we had 20% renewables with a huge investment in the last 10 years. And as Commissioner Oettinger was saying, 2020 was yesterday. It's not today, it was yesterday. So now I hope this year we can agree on the targets for 2030. And me and my friends, we want that we go up to 40 to 45% of renewables in the year 2030. So not say 30% in year 2030, but we have to be better because we have that long-term vision that in the year 2050, carbon emissions are basically taking out of our society and economy. There is the decision by the heads of states of government that 80 till 90% of CO2 emissions are out of the market. And till 2050, you have only 30 years from 2020 on. So the next step, this decade and till 2030 is so decisive. If we are too comfortable, if we are now falling back by other interests that are coming up, I mentioned gas, coal. You could see that fossil fuels are coming back. And somehow this doesn't fit with our climate policy. And I think we have to be coherent and logical.
Mr. Leinen, I'm sorry, we are run out of time, so the last question has to be done after this discussion because the next is waiting to enter the stage already. But I'm very happy to have you here, Mr. Leinen, and Brian's question you probably take personally. So
Absolutely.
Thank you very much, Mr. Leinen, for being here. Thank you to have you here. It was a pleasure.
Okay.